Good day, everybody. It's TBYE Black Living Room Talk. How are you enjoying this hot weather? It is so hot. Everybody is complaining. And I don't like it real hot, but warm is one thing, but hot is another. And that's just about it. That's all I can say. If you've got central air and you've got air in your car, use it and make sure that you are drinking your water and staying hydrated. So I did some reading, over the weekend, and I left off the last time I read when we were getting into the Sahara, and so I'm just going to go ahead and get into this for a couple of minutes from where I left off the last time as I read with you here. And this is Color in Northern Africa by Leon Carl Brown. Perhaps this distinction between the inner African frontier zone, the Sahara, and the rest of Northern Africa suggests a modification of the earlier point made about the unique white-black relationship in Northern Africa. It might be more accurate to see the confrontation of native white and native black as having taken place only in the Sahara and the Upper Nile Valley. Concomitantly, the white-black relationship in the rest of Northern Africa will seem disturbingly like that in the United States. Excuse me. A minority of detribalized blacks, almost all of whom were brought in as slaves, occupies the lowest socio-economic rungs in the social ladder. Not only are they unable to return to their native lands, but they are also in no position to demand consideration or respect. They lack both sufficient cohesion within the domestic society and physical proximity to native black societies that might champion their cause. Yet, as anyone familiar with society in Northern Africa will immediately recognize, the white-black relationship there is not comparable to that in the United States. The key to understanding the question of color in Northern Africa lies in discovering what makes for this difference. It is tempting to speculate that the all-too-human tendency to discriminate according to easily discernible differences is mitigated in societies which have always had some blacks living amidst whites. The black man in Northern Africa was never a strange, unknown being, not to be judged by existing Moors and thus more readily treated as if he belonged to a different species. The most famous historian and thinker of Muslim North Africa, Ibn Khaldun, 1332 to 1406, reserved his most pejorative comments for those blacks about whom the Northern Africans had no first-hand knowledge. To the south of the Nile, Niger, there is a Negro people called Lamlam. They are unbelievers. They brand themselves on the face and temples. The people of Ghana and Takrur invade their country, capture them, and sell them to merchants who transport them to the Maghreb. There they constitute the ordinary mass of slaves. Beyond them, to the south, there is no civilization in the proper sense. There are only humans who are closer to dumb animals than to rational beings. They live in thickets and caves and eat herbs and unprepared grain. They frequently eat each other. They cannot be considered human beings. The idea that white-black familiarity in northern Africa bred not contempt but a certain feeling of common humanity should be kept in mind as one of several possible independent variables serving to explain the color pattern there. It is at best, however, a shaky hypothesis, as the centuries-old caste system in India would immediately suggest. Some observers will stress the role of Islam in breaking down distinctions based on color. This position raises as many problems as it answers. Christianity and Islam are quite close on the questions of slavery and racialism. Both arose in a historical context that included slavery. Although both attempted to restrict the institution, neither categorically forbade it. Furthermore, each began among a single ethnic group and moved quickly, not without tensions and problems, into a universal appeal to all races. The undeniable progress of Islam in Africa can be compared to that of Christianity among the European barbarians. This indicates the futility of attempting to explain Muslim or Christian successes in terms of certain distinctions between the two religions. An examination of the actual economic and political roles played by the blacks in northern Africa will be both more demonstrable and more useful. Here, a crucial difference immediately emerges. The slave relationship of the Negro in the modern Western world was always closely linked to the plantation system, the exploitation of large numbers of unskilled slave laborers, and vast agricultural projects. There has been nothing comparable to the plantation system of slavery in northern Africa, excluding the Sahara, since the Islamic period began in the 17th century. The blacks who came as slaves were employed as domestic servants, concubines, artisans, or porters. In the famous case of the Abid al-Bukhari, organized by Morocco's Malay Ismail, who reigned from 1672 to 1727, they formed an elite Praetorian Guard that for several decades held the balance of power in Morocco. The Negroes brought in as slaves from West Africa thus played for a brief time a military role similar to that of the Turks and the rest of the Arabo-Islamic world. The economic and social position of the black man in northern Africa best explains many aspects of the white-black relationship there. Observers, always unanimous about the cruelty and severity of the trans-Saharan slave traffic, have remarked on the humane treatment of the black slave in northern Africa. Nothing could be more natural. The slave was not chattel to be sent into the fields. Rather, he often lived with the family. Master-slave relationships were face-to-face. The concubinage that took place was socially accepted, the children of such union being fully recognized and free. So you see, the Atlantic slave trade in the United States was totally different. Totally human, and everybody knows how inhumane it was. They took it was taken to a whole nother level. So I'm going to end right here at this part for today in this chapter. Humane treatment of blacks, slaves, or people of slave origins is one thing, but social mobility quite another. One can cite the important, if short-lived, political role of the Abid al-Bukhara as kingmakers in 7th and 18th century Morocco, or dip into history to recall that a Negro, Kafur, was de facto ruler of Egypt during the mid-10th century. It might even be noted that Moroccan Sultan Malay Hassan, who reigned from 1873 to 1894, had a Negro mother. Even so, Isolated examples of this sort throughout the centuries illustrate only a slight change in the marginal position of the blacks in the various societies of northern Africa. There was, however, never anything approaching segregation based on color. So I hope you enjoy that reading today. And as I go further, I hope that you will continue to follow me as I explore and we explore together how race relations are in northern Africa, color in northern Africa. And as we can see, I just learned something today with you too, because I hadn't covered that part in my reading where it says that there was never anything approaching segregation based on color, and that um, the slaves in northern Africa they weren't chattel. They weren't sent to the fields. They lived with their family, and master-slave relationships were face-to-face, and the concubinage that took place was socially accepted, that the children of the union were fully recognized, and they were free. So the slavery over there and the slavery over here in the United States is incomparable. But I'm eager. I mean, I'm gonna do some reading tonight on this and take notes so that I can kind of have my own questions and my own comments during the reading for the next time. So in the meantime, I'm glad that you all are here. I wish you peace, love, and light, and all of that. And stay cool. Hotel.